to Pets Life with Gym Dog, Ireland's first pet resort by Des the Vet. Managed by vets, loved by pets. Daycare, vet care, premium pet food and grooming. Visit at petslife.ie.
For a Wednesday morning, and just remind you that we will be putting this up on podcast a little bit later on this afternoon. Des Groom joins me in studio. It's a Wednesday instead of a Tuesday, but that's because of the bank holiday weekend. Did you have a good bank holiday, by the way?
How are you, John? Yeah, great to be here, yeah. I was at the rugby in Dublin on Saturday, and I was active with the cycling club over the weekend as well. And it's nice that we had a few good days. Yeah. It wasn't too warm, but it was dry and nice.
Depressing about the rugby, but
it was a bit of a shock. But look, that's the way it goes.
It is, yeah.
It just goes to show you how competitive professional sport is, you know?
It is, yeah, because Northampton are seventh in the Premiership in the UK at the moment in England.
They played fantastic, and they have a few brilliant young players who probably get called up to the Lions now.
Yeah, which is coming this Friday, the announcement for
Is it this soon?
It is this Friday, yeah. So Doris would say it's gone by the wayside, I'd say, by the looks of things. Okay, so matters at hand. It's been good weather, everything has been going okay, I suppose, really, and lots of people out walking their dogs and everything, so that's always good, isn't it?
Yeah, things that happen at this time of year, interesting enough. I'll just tell you about the kind of caseload in a vet hospital over the last 2 weeks, right?
Yeah.
Couple of hottish days, very old dogs maybe with big winter coats on them and carrying a bit of weight, heat stroke type signs, heat intolerance.
Okay.
So old dogs getting sick because they're not able to manage their own temperature.
Right,
so if you're the owner of an old dog, the grooming is really important at this time of year.
Okay.
You have to get the winter coats off them so that they can cope with a warmer average daily temperature. So those kind of cases, not full-blown heat stroke, I'd characterise them as kind of heat intolerance. Older dogs getting tummy bugs and nausea and things like that. That's one incidence of it. Another thing is lots of dogs with the sniffles. Sneezing, runny eyes, runny nose. Surprising the amount of dogs and cats that get hay fever at this time of year.
Okay.
Little bit of a allergic reaction to pollen, surprisingly common, and people think, it's kennel cough or it's a virus.
It's not.
No, it's usually just a bit of mild hay fever. It's the second type of case we see. Third type of case, a lot of people go for walks now. Maybe go to different places. Let's go to Emo. Let's go for a walk along the canal. It's a lovely evening.
Yeah.
And their dogs drink or come in contact with, drink water, come in contact with different bugs. So you get kind of new little tummy bugs that you don't see for dogs being brought to different places and sniffing into different things and drinking stagnant water
and that's
coming into contact.
You often see people when they're out walking around like Savimo or these places where there is lakes around them, and they're just licking something off a puddle or something or whatever the case may be.
They do.
And it's as simple as that.
The case in point is St. Bernard. We treated yesterday. Looked very, very, very sick, acutely sick for 24 hours with hemorrhagic diarrhoea. Now that's where the bacteria inflames the intestines and the diarrhoea that's coming out has blood in it.
Right, okay.
And it can be very serious. It can be a semi-emergency because they need antibiotics and they need fluids quickly, rapidly. It's a crisis. They're very sick. So with the hemorrhagic diarrhoea, you see what can happen is the stomach or the small intestine can ulcerate.
Okay, right. Fair
and
enough.
they can die from it. They can get a septicemia if you don't catch it in time.
Okay.
But when you do catch them in time, fluids, antibiotics, recovery within 24 hours.
Okay.
And that was a case in point whereby that particular dog had been out scavenging, eating horse dung, we believe. On the Curragh, had caused an E. coli infection.
Wow. There you go.
So
Simple as that.
things are always seasonal, always can happen in waves, and we see patterns of cases that occur around us, same time every year, same types of cases. But all those things I've talked about there, they're all very manageable with a visit to the vet, and you'll see animals get better with relatively simple treatments in a day.
Okay. And going back to what you were saying about the first point regarding grooming and making sure, just what you were saying about the animals.
Yeah.
Do many people take on board that advice with the other animals if they do have winter coats?
Yeah, you'd love them to be a bit more proactive.
Yeah.
Okay, because if you get the grooming done more regularly, then your dog is comfortable and hygienic and happy and healthy and clean on a regular basis. And not to be leaving it until, I should get him groomed now, shouldn't I? He's overheating and he's manky.
Because people don't really associate the word overheating with grooming. They think of grooming as he needs a haircut. He's a bit naughty. They don't look at it from that perspective. They look at it from his look.
Yeah, so it's not cosmetic. Grooming is not really a cosmetic thing. But people that are, very particular about it and get it done very regularly, for them it becomes a cosmetic thing. They like the dog to look a certain way.
Yeah.
But most dogs should be groomed regularly for health reasons. That'd be the key thing I'd like to get through to people. And you'd love people to be proactive and get the big dog groomed properly 3 times a year, get the small dog groomed properly 6 times a year, and make a regular habit of it. And then it'll become cheaper as well,
Yeah, overall.
Overall,
very good. I want to talk to you about our top 20 list now. We're going through. There's still probably another couple of weeks left on this.
Yeah.
But we have been covering it over the last couple of weeks. Top 20 ways to save on pet care.
Yeah, save money on pet care. Exactly.
Save money, and sorry, not save on pet care, but save money on pet care, yes. It's a great list when you take it as the list. Have you published that list yet? I know you've done the video on it.
I did a video on it, and I did an audio on it. It's on my Spotify.
Yeah.
So you could look for A Pet's Life with Des the Vet. That's me on Spotify.
Okay.
And I have a couple of different versions and renditions of that list on the Spotify.
Yeah.
And I've done bits on it on our own social media stuff, on the Gym Dog social media stuff.
Okay, brilliant. So just.
But you're suggesting to me I should put the whole list. Maybe I should put it on the website.
I would do that.
Okay.
I would definitely.
Useful,
when we have it done, I'll go through it. We'll
see. My angle with that list is right. I'm approaching it, putting myself in the shoes of a modern pet owner who wants to do the job right and wants to do everything on a proactive disease prevention healthy way.
Yeah.
If you want to be a 5-star pet owner and do the job right, then following my list of 20 things will allow you to do the job right and tick all the boxes while saving money.
Yeah.
Now, the average person out there who has an old-fashioned approach and is only going to bring the dog to the vets when they're sick, that's you can't. But all I can do is say to people like that is don't be reactive with your dog's health, no more than you would be with your own.
Yeah. So
if you're proactive, you'll save money in the long run because you'll keep your dog healthier and they'll live longer.
Okay, Billy was on to us. He just wanted to say thank you to Des' advice on pet insurance over the last year or so. We keep on doing it. We've been doing it for the last 2 years, and boy oh boy did it come in handy only a few weeks ago back, and thanks to our local vet. Doesn't say who it is, but just say it was well worth the investment.
Yeah, good. I'm glad to hear it.
Okay, good stuff. Now, we're looking at number 19 and number 20 for now. Share boarding costs. Explain about this one, right?
Okay, so the boarding kennels. The boarding kennel is a good business.
Yeah.
But even County Kildare is becoming more and more built up. So boarding kennels are having to reduce their numbers maybe because there's housing encroaching on them. Dogs need land and they need space.
Yeah.
We have 3 acres there in Gym Dog between the hospital and the boarding kennels, and it's barely even enough. And there's a limitation to the numbers we can take. Our boarding kennels at the busy times of year are nearly always full. Every boarding kennels in the area that I know of is nearly always full at the peak times of year when people go on holidays.
Okay. What is just curious, what should a size of a boarding kennels be? Or is there a law, or because of noise and barking? I know you touched on it last week.
No, it's not regulated, John. At all. No, there's very little in terms of regulation there for boarding kennels. Now, dog breeding is regulated and it comes under the county council department vets. But they can inspect boarding kennels and breeding kennels, and breeding kennels are meant to be licensed. But boarding kennels aren't. It's an unregulated business.
Right, but the only thing is I could say about boarding kennels, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that basically if you bring your dog to a kennels and say they don't have the best reputation, word gets out very quickly. And likewise, if you have a good reputation, word gets out very quickly.
To be fair, things will always go wrong in the sense that a dog can get sick and get stressed because they're in a strange place. But it's self-regulating.
Okay.
You're correct in the sense that people who do it right and are in the locality, in the area,
get the recommendations.
They do. And there are a few really nice. There's a lady there in the countryside, Ellistown and Kildare, and there's one in Rathangan, and there's one out near Ballybrittis, and they're there 20 years, and so they have that reputation that are good. So the pens need to be a good size to walk in.
Yeah.
Right, and nice bed and room for blankets and beds and food and water.
Right.
And then spaces and places for them to be let out for runs in the day.
It's important. I think we're coming into the summer season as well, right? So a couple of things are going to happen. People who don't bring their dogs with them on holidays will end up putting them into kennels and boarding as well.
Yeah.
From an owner's perspective, looking out for a kennels, what are they looking for?
That the people are happy to show you around.
Yeah.
And that they ask plenty of questions about your dog.
Right, okay.
And they have an interest in the dog's behaviour and welfare.
They're not just interested in getting your money and throwing the dogs into it.
Yeah,
that doesn't really
to be fair,
much.
none of them are just interested in that, because it's a hard enough old job to mind anybody's pet.
Yeah.
If they're doing the job right, they'll want to find out a lot about the dog before they even accept a booking.
Yeah.
So that type of person that engages with you.
Yeah, is that the reason why you were saying, like, when you're with your own gym dog thing, the gym dog thing kind of works parallel to the kenneling? So most people who bring your dog down for gym dog, if they're going away on holidays, would actually avail of your staff would know the dog, and the dog would know the staff.
So our kennels are members only, in the sense that we only want to take our members overnight, and we don't want, for the dog's own sake, they need to be regulars.
Right.
They need to be used to the place, that they'll settle, that we have all the health and safety measures in place to suit that dog, that we know who we can put him beside in the kennels.
Yeah.
And we know whether we need a big kennel or a small kennel for that dog, and we know whether we can mix him at playtime with other dogs or not. So you want your regulars, because when a dog comes for the very first time, there's a steep learning curve.
Yeah.
We can socialise, and we have to socialise them and engage them. And the first time a dog stays anywhere is stressful for them.
Yeah.
Right? So one of my 20 tips is to share boarding and kennelling costs with a neighbour. So if you board your dog with the neighbour's dog, and they board their dog with you, or you go off to the same kennels together, that your dog has a buddy.
Yeah.
And that you have people that occasionally, if you're stuck and the kennels are full, that they'll take your dog overnight for you for one night, and you'll take their dog overnight for them for one night.
Okay.
So your dogs need to be bonded together and settled together, and you have to get into a good routine of...
But that doesn't really work, Des, does it?
It works for some people, yeah.
But I mean, I'm talking about the dogs. Dogs have a habit of not liking each other. if they're strangers.
Yeah. Well, no, you find a neighbour whose dog gets on with yours.
Okay, right.
If you can.
Okay, right.
Now, it mightn't be possible.
Okay,
it mightn't be possible.
but it's a suggestion.
But it's a suggestion. And if that doesn't work for you, find the kennels that's near you and that's close by, and that does a bit of daycare as well, and get your dog used to the same place, and don't be chopping and changing, and do have the dog there regularly.
Okay.
So there's nothing worse than dropping the dog for 7 nights once a year.
No.
That will always be stressful for your dog.
Okay.
No matter how nice the place is.
Yeah.
No matter how nice the boarding kennels is, leaving them for 7 nights once a year is a trauma for the dog.
So what are you saying in the build-up to... So we're coming into holiday season now, so you're saying to people, bring them down to the kennels?
Leave them for a night here and there.
Yeah, get them used to it.
Get them used to it.
And get the staff used to the dog and the dog used to the staff.
Yeah, cultivate a relationship.
Right, that's a good idea. That's a very good tip.
With the people who have the kennels.
Okay, right, fair enough. Generally, there's 2 questions that are coming in there regarding costs. Are costs based weekly or daily? How is it calculated?
Daily.
And obviously, would there be a set fee regarding if somebody's dropping in a Great Dane and somebody's dropping in a Chihuahua? It's different. Yeah,
it's different. It takes kind of 20 to probably 28, 30 for a small dog.
Yeah,
40-ish for a big dog. That'd be kind of the going rate,
right?
As far as I know, around kennels. Yeah,
and that here. Yeah, to be honest with you, most people say it's 200, 250 quid for a week. Or whatever. Yeah. That seems to be on par. And most
now the grooming is the same in the sense that if you only bring your dog to be groomed somewhere once a year, that's a trauma for the dog.
Yeah.
You should be grooming your dog 4 to 6 times a year with the one good person who gets to know your dog and how you like the dog to be groomed, and your dog then will be less stressed with that person and will be less stressed during the grooming process, and it becomes an easier process. All of these things become cheaper and easier in the long run if you do them regularly enough.
And I'd say most groomers, if they're going to meet the dog for the first time, it'll probably be a shorter session than the second or third time, wouldn't it?
Yeah, you should. Okay, so that's kind of the idea, the puppy groom. Get them in at 3 to 4 months of age for a little puppy groom, where she'll groomer probably just do a blow dry and a brush and a little snip, small job. Yeah. Your little puppy trim, puppy groom, should be just kind of introducing them to the clippers, introducing them to the blow dryer.
Okay.
And getting them used to the process of standing on a table and being nice and quiet and being careful.
Right, on to question number 20.
Number 20. So number 20, what I have there is don't get it. My point really regarding number 20 is think about your own circumstances and whether you're able to have a dog or not.
Okay.
And number 20 is foster a dog if you're not settled.
Yes.
That it's in simple terms. What that sentence means is if you're not settled if you're not a homeowner, or your own circumstances aren't settled in life, maybe you're a young person in a new relationship and you're in the job that might not be your job for the rest of your life, and you might have to move. Or you might want to move. You might want to relocate. You might want to explore the world and work in other cities, work in other countries.
Yeah.
So if you're not settled and you're not literally, you've bought a house and you have your kids and you're not going anywhere for 30 years, then don't get a dog.
Yeah. Yeah,
so
absolutely.
What you can do to enjoy the benefits of dog companionship if you're not settled is you can foster a dog.
Which is a good idea, yeah.
Forge a relationship with the local animal shelters, go in and out regularly, become a dog fosterer. And then if you do have to relocate, the foster dog can go on to its forever home then in the next phase of its life.
That makes sense as well, yeah. It really does.
So foster a dog, don't adopt, don't buy a dog if you're a young person and you're not settled.
Okay, that's there was a couple of calls coming in, there's a couple of questions, and so that's a good tip regarding making sure that, if you're planning going forward, or it's not your forever home, or whatever the case may be, but if you are going to be moving on with jobs or moving your I suppose your lifestyle keeps on changing, it's the wrong time to get a dog.
It's the wrong time to get a dog, and I've encountered nightmare scenarios over the years whereby young couples have had to move and have had to board their dogs or cats with us for extended periods of time while they were in between dogs. It might be a family crisis. I was made redundant. I wasn't planning on leaving Kildare, but I'm going to have to relocate. I've gone back to the company and they've offered me a position, but I'm going to have to move to London.
Yeah.
Blah, blah, blah. Those kind of scenarios happen to young people in the early stages of their career. And believe me, we've been through it. I've had to board dogs and cats for people for weeks at a time, weeks and even months, where they've had to relocate. Or their landlord has turned around and said, hang on a minute, I didn't know you had a dog. You'll have to get rid of that dog.
Yeah. Okay, good stuff.
So do foster a dog rather than adopting or buying a dog.
I wasn't going to cover this point, but coincidentally enough, I've got a question about your number 13 on your list. Get nutrition right. We have a question in regarding nutrition for their 2 golden retrievers.
Yeah.
What's the best type of nutrition to give a golden retriever?
The golden retriever, in the middle phase of their lives, they should be on a large breed adult diet.
Okay.
Now, there's no one-size-fits-all dog food. They have different dietary needs. So a healthy, young, active male or female retriever, for example, has a higher need for calcium and protein than a Chihuahua or a Jack Russell.
Right.
And has a lower need for carbohydrate per kilo body weight than a Chihuahua or a Jack Russell. So they need a low energy, high fibre, high protein, high calcium diet, which is the makeup of a large breed adult diet.
Right.
That's what it should say on the bag.
Okay. So that you should basically, whatever age your dog is, you should concentrate on what the bag says.
Yeah, if you've got a 9-month-old Bichon, you should be feeding it small breed puppy.
Right, okay.
If you've got a 2-year-old Bichon, you should be feeding it small breed adult.
Right, okay.
And if you have a 7-year-old, an 8-year-old St. Bernard, you should be on senior large breed.
You should be
it all differs.
You should be on a big 10 kg bag.
Definitely a 10 kg bag, and it should. And you see, the kibble will be bigger, and the protein content, calcium content, also the senior diets. Now, there's one now. Senior dogs. One of the other things on the list is senior dogs need a senior diet. If your dog is 10, he needs glucosamine, chondroitin, and calcium to a greater level than a younger adult dog would, and he needs higher fibre and lower carbohydrate. So that would be basically the constituents of a senior diet. So it'll say senior on the bag.
Yeah, that makes sense as well. Okay, question. Ask Des how to take a tick off a frog. No, it's not a frog. It's a dog. You spelled it with an F.
Right.
How to take a tick off be interesting trying to catch a frog to take a tick off.
Yeah.
How do you take the tick off the animal? I think it's an animal.
What you should actually do is you give that, whether it's a dog or a cat, give them a tick treatment, a spot on for the tick, right? And wait a day. Because if the tick hasn't died and fallen off by itself within a day, it will be dying and the pincers will be loosening, and you'll be able to get a little tick remover from a pet shop or the vets for a couple of euros.
Okay.
And you'll be able to twiddle it off.
You know when you put the spot on onto the back of the neck of the animal, right? And you're convinced it hasn't gone through, or it's sometimes, I mean...
It soaks in though, doesn't it?
It soaks in. Well, you tell me. It does soak in.
So they have a chemical in them to help them absorb into the body, and they go into the bloodstream and they produce a reaction in the immune system of the animal. They contain a chemical called imidacloprid and usually another chemical called fipronil, and they act on the blood. And these ticks and parasites, you see, the fact of the matter is, fact of life, all of these parasites, fleas, ticks and mites, they're blood-sucking, they're nibbling, they're biting. So they're on the skin of the animal, they're biting the skin of the animal, they're feeding off the animal. So if you give a spot onto your animal and it's soaked in, and they bite or feed off the animal, they're poisoned by the chemical that you put on the dog. So they'll die and they'll stay away.
Okay, right, fair enough. So basically, give the old spot on, wait a day or two, watch to see what happens. If the tick is still kind of hanging in there, well, last resort, over to the vet.
You might have the confidence to use a little plastic tick remover thing, which is like a little tiny stapler.
Sometimes they break.
Sometimes, yes, they can break. You might have the confidence to try and use the little tick remover yourself.
Yeah.
If you haven't, your local vets, the vet nurse will do it for you.
The vet nurse will do it.
Yeah.
Okay, good stuff indeed. Right, 2 more quick questions. Here we go. Des, our retriever Hunter was sneezing a lot recently. Good to hear that it's probably just hay fever. Is there anything he can take for hay fever?
Yeah, he can take Piriton, believe it or not.
Human Piriton?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a...
Piriton makes you drowsy though, doesn't it?
Doesn't make dogs drowsy.
Okay, right, fair enough.
It's mildly effective.
Okay.
1 to 2 Piriton per day for a few days is usually adequate for a little 3 to 4 day type of a hay fever thing, which might be because the farmer is mowing in the field next door, or the neighbours have just done the lawns, or whatever it is, or it might be a transiently high pollen count.
Okay.
So a few days of Piriton can help. If it persists beyond a day or so, and if it's a constant thing with your dog that they're scratching and their eyes are running and their nose is running and it becomes a constant thing, sometimes they can get a bit hoarse, a bit kind of wheezy with it, just like a person with asthma. In that case, they do need to see the vet.
Okay, one final quick question. Here comes. Des, why does my dog eat grass? Mark and Nace.
Yeah, they do that as a self-medicating instinct or an urge to bulk up their own tummy. It's an indicator of a bit of antacid or a bit of colic. They do it because they need a bit more fibre in their diet. If your dog is perennially, constantly a grass eater, then you need to look at your dog's overall diet. Usually it's an indicator that you need to reduce the fat and reduce the meat content of the diet and increase the fibre content.
Okay, and if it continues to do so, bring it down.
Get a bit of advice from the vets about nutrition.
Okay, that makes sense.
Giving the dog carrots actually as an extra can be a help in terms of reducing the amount of grass that they're going to eat.
Makes them see better too.
I believe you on that.
Sorry, couldn't resist. We're onward bound. Des, thanks for dropping into us today.
Yeah, very good, John.
And
thanks.
we'll be putting this up on podcast a little bit later on this afternoon. That's it for our vet slot. Thanks to Des Groom. And of course, you can check out all the various different bits and bobs. And you make sure you check out Des' social media as well. Because
that's on the KFM podcast. There's a lovely library of all of these shows on the KFM website, and I have these podcasts and more stuff on Spotify on my own channel at Pets Life.
Okay.
If you have any other questions, though, do give us a call at Groom Vets in Kildare or Kildare Vet Surgery.
Good man.
It's a Pet's Life with Gym Dog, Ireland's first pet resort by Des the Vet, managed by vets, loved by pets. Daycare, vet care, premium pet food and grooming. Visit at petslife.ie.